The world remembers heroes in many ways. Some are carved in marble, others are written in history books. But some heroes are remembered by a simple, faded piece of cloth, a red bandana. In the quiet suburbs of Upper Nyack, New York, life moved at a different pace in the 1980s. It was a place of white picket fences, autumn leaves turning golden orange, and the distant sound of church bells. This is where the story of Welles Remy Crowther began. To his friends, he was just Welles. To his family, they were their heartbeat. But to the world, he would eventually become the man in the red bandana. But before the fire, before the smoke, and before the towers, there was a little boy. A boy who learned very early that being a man wasn't about strength or power. It was about service. It was about showing up when others stepped back. It happened when Welles was just 6 or 7 years old. His father, Jefferson Crowther, was getting ready for church. As he put on his suit jacket, he took out 2 handkerchiefs. One was a clean white one for show, and the other was a bright red bandana. Welles, with his eyes wide with curiosity, asked, "Dad, why do you carry that?" Jefferson knelt down, looking his son in the eye, a moment that would define a lifetime. He handed a small version of the red bandana to Welles and said, "This is for use. One for show, one for work. You keep this with you, Welles. You never know when someone might need a hand, or when you'll need to wipe the dust off your boots and keep going." From that day on, that red bandana never left his side. It was in his pocket during his first soccer match. It was tucked into his hockey helmet in high school. It was his signature. But it was more than a fashion statement. It was a promise. It was a physical reminder of his father's values: practicality, preparedness, and presence. Growing up in a tight-knit American community, Welles was drawn to the local firehouse like a moth to a flame. Empire Hook and Ladder Company No. 1 wasn't just a building, it was the soul of the town. While other teenagers were focused on parties or video games, Welles was fascinated by the brotherhood of firefighters. At age 16, he became a junior volunteer firefighter. He didn't do it for the glory. He did it because he loved the sound of the siren, not because it was loud, but because it meant help was on the way. He spent his weekends cleaning trucks, coiling hoses, and listening to the older men tell stories of bravery. He learned how to breathe in thick smoke. He learned how to carry a person twice his weight. Most importantly, he learned that when everyone is running out of a burning building, a hero's job is to run in. His mother, Allison Crowther, remembers him as a boy with a golden heart. He was the kind of kid who would notice the person sitting alone in the cafeteria and strike up a conversation. He had this quiet confidence, a classic American grit that didn't need to shout to be heard. By the time he graduated from Boston College, Welles was a star athlete and an honor student. He moved to the big city, New York City, to chase the American dream. He landed a high-paying job as an equities trader at Sandler, O'Neill & Partners. His office was on the 104th floor of the South Tower of the World Trade Center. To the outside world, Welles Crowther had made it. He was a young professional in a sharp suit, working at the top of the world. But deep down, underneath that expensive suit, tucked away in his back pocket, was that same faded, wrinkled red bandana. He told his father, "Dad, I don't think I can sit behind a desk forever. I want to be a professional firefighter. I want to be where the action is. I want to help people." He didn't know it yet, but the training he received in that small-town firehouse and the values symbolized by that red cloth were about to be tested in a way no human should ever have to endure. He was an ordinary boy from a quiet street, but he was prepared for an extraordinary destiny.
New York City in the early 2000s was a place of electric ambition. It was a city that never slept, and for a young man like Welles Crowther, it was the ultimate arena. After graduating from Boston College, Welles moved to Manhattan, traded his sports jersey for a tailored suit, and stepped into the fast-paced world of high finance. He worked as an equities trader for Sandler, O'Neill & Partners. His office was located on the 104th floor of the South Tower, Tower 2, of the World Trade Center. To understand the scale of his daily life, imagine starting your day over 1,000 feet in the air. From his window, the clouds often drifted by him. The massive bridges of New York looked like toy sets, and the bustling people on the streets were mere dots. Welles was successful. He was disciplined. He was the guy who was always in the office early and stayed late. But even in the high-stakes world of Wall Street, the ordinary boy from Upper Nyack remained unchanged. He wasn't the typical arrogant trader. He was known for his smile, his humility, and of course, his signature style. Every morning, as he adjusted his tie and checked his reflection, he would place that red bandana in his back pocket. His colleagues noticed it. They'd ask, "Welles, what's with the red rag?" And he'd just smile and say, "It's a family thing. You never know when you might need it." Despite the prestige of his 104th floor office, Welles felt a pull towards something different. He loved the city, but he missed the grit. He missed the feeling of a fire helmet on his head and the weight of a hose in his hands. He was a member of the elite volunteer firefighter community, and even though he was making money on Wall Street, his soul belonged to the firehouse. In the summer of 2001, he had a heart-to-heart conversation with his father, Jefferson. "Dad," he said, "I've learned a lot here, but I don't want to spend my life behind a computer screen. I'm going to apply for the FDNY. I want to be a New York City firefighter." He had already started the application process. He was training, keeping his body in peak physical condition. He saw himself not as a titan of finance, but as a servant of the people. This transition is crucial to understanding what happened next. He wasn't just a victim caught in a tragedy. He was a trained rescuer who happened to be at work that day. He was a professional in a suit with the heart of a savior. The morning of September 11th was ironically beautiful. It was what New Yorkers call a severe clear day. The sky was a deep, piercing blue without a single cloud. The air was crisp, hinting at the coming autumn. Welles took the subway to the World Trade Center, likely grabbing a coffee, and rode the high-speed elevators up to the 104th floor. At 8:46 a.m., a sudden, thunderous roar shook the North Tower, Tower 1. From his vantage point in the South Tower, Welles and his colleagues saw the horrific explosion. Debris and papers fluttered past their windows like macabre confetti. The North Tower was burning. The initial confusion was overwhelming. An announcement came over the PA system in the South Tower. "The building is secure. Please stay at your desks." Some people stayed. Some started to leave. Welles stood at the window, watching the smoke pour out of the sister tower. His firefighter instincts were screaming at him. He knew this wasn't an accident. He knew people were dying just a few hundred feet away. For 17 minutes, the South Tower stood in a state of terrifying suspense. Then, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 slammed into the South Tower between the 77th and 85th floors. The impact was cataclysmic. The building swayed violently, tilting several feet before snapping back. Ceilings collapsed. Elevator shafts turned into chimneys for jet fuel. On the 104th floor, the world turned into a nightmare of dust, fire, and darkness. Welles Crowther was above the impact zone. In theory, he was trapped. The elevators were gone. The stairs were filled with smoke. Most people in his position were paralyzed by fear, waiting for a rescue that would never come. But Welles wasn't most people. As the dust began to settle on the 104th floor, Welles didn't scream. He didn't panic. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out the red bandana. He tied it around his nose and mouth to filter the suffocating dust. He was no longer a traitor. He was a firefighter. He looked at his terrified coworkers, and his voice, usually so calm, became a command. "Follow me. I know the way out." He began to lead them toward the only stairwell that remained passable, Stairwell A. He could have run. He could have been the first one down. But that wasn't what the red bandana stood for. He was about to descend into the heart of the fire, not to save himself, but to find those who couldn't find their own way.
At 9:03 a.m., the South Tower didn't just shake, it groaned under the weight of an impossible impact. On the 78th floor sky lobby, hundreds of people were waiting for elevators, trying to evacuate after the first plane hit the North Tower. Then, the second plane sliced through the building just floors above them. The scene was hell on earth. The lobby, once a masterpiece of glass and steel, was now a graveyard of debris. The air was thick with a toxic mix of pulverized drywall, jet fuel, and the smell of burning metal. Most people were blinded. They were coughing, gasping for air, and huddled in corners, waiting for an end they felt was inevitable. The emergency lights flickered, casting eerie, dancing shadows against the gray dust. In this suffocating silence, a voice rang out. It wasn't a scream for help. It was a command of authority. It was loud, clear, and calm, the voice of someone who knew exactly what to do. "I found the stairs," the voice shouted. "Follow me. Only those who can help others, help them now. Everyone else, get in line." Out of the thick gray fog of dust, a figure appeared. The survivors couldn't see his face clearly, but they saw one thing that stood out against the monochrome gray of the ruins: a bright red bandana tied across his nose and mouth. One of the survivors was a woman named Ling Young.
She was badly burned, her glasses were gone, and she couldn't see more than a few feet in front of her. She was ready to give up. Then she felt a firm, strong hand on her shoulder. "I found the stairs," the man said. He didn't ask if she was okay. He knew she wasn't. He simply gave her hope. He led her and a group of others towards stairwell A, the only staircase that hadn't been severed by the plane's wing. Welles Crowther wasn't just pointing the way, he was physically carrying the weight of the tragedy. He found a woman named Judy Wine, who was struggling with broken ribs and a punctured lung. He didn't just tell her where to go, he directed the group with the precision of a trained fire captain. To the survivors, he looked like a ghost or an angel. Because of the red bandana, they couldn't see his youth or his fear. They only saw the symbol of his service. He was a man in a white t-shirt, carrying a fire extinguisher in one hand and a flashlight in the other, moving through the smoke as if he had lived there his whole life. By the time Welles reached the 61st floor with the first group of survivors, they were out of the thickest smoke. They were safe enough to continue down on their own. Most people, having reached safety, would have kept running. The building was moaning, the steel was weakening under the intense heat of thousands of gallons of burning jet fuel. Every second spent inside that tower was a gamble with death. But Welles Crowther stopped. He looked at Ling Young and the others he had just saved. He didn't say goodbye. He looked back up the smoky, dark stairwell. "I'm going back up," he said simply. "But you can't," someone might have whispered. "It's too dangerous." But Welles was a firefighter. In his mind, his job wasn't finished until the building was empty. He knew there were more people on the 78th floor. He knew there were people trapped under desks, people blinded by the dust, people who had lost the will to move. He turned around and disappeared back into the black smoke. Welles Crowther climbed back up 17 flights of stairs. Every step up was a step towards his own end, and he knew it. He reached the 78th floor again. The conditions were even worse now. The heat was becoming unbearable. Again, he found a group. Again, he used his calm, booming voice to break through their terror. He found more survivors, some buried under rubble, and he pulled them out. He told them the same thing: "I found the stairs. Follow me." He was tired. His lungs were burning from the fine dust that even the bandana couldn't fully filter. But he kept moving. He was the bridge between life and death for 18 people that day. He was a 24-year-old equities trader, but in those 92 minutes, the same duration the tower stood, he was the finest firefighter New York had ever seen. As he led the second group down, the South Tower began its final, agonizing collapse. The world outside was watching in horror, but inside, in the dark, crowded stairwell, a young man with a red bandana was still working. He was still leading. He was still being the light.
By 9:50 a.m., the South Tower was dying. The structural steel, weakened by the intense heat of 10,000 gallons of burning jet fuel, began to bow and buckle. Inside, the sound was deafening, the groan of 100,000 tons of concrete and steel preparing to succumb to gravity. Welles Crowther had just brought his second group of survivors down to the lower floors. He was near the 17th floor when he encountered a group of FDNY firefighters from Ladder 4 and Engine 10. These were the professionals, the men Welles had always dreamed of joining. They were heading up into the heart of the fire. In that moment, Welles had another choice. He was so close to the street. He could have walked out into the sunlight of Liberty Street and lived to tell his story. But when he saw the firefighters, his training took over. He didn't see himself as a civilian anymore. He was a brother in arms. He stopped a group of firemen and told them about the survivors he had found trapped in the sky lobby on the 78th floor. He didn't just give directions, he grabbed a spare medical kit and a radio. He turned his back on the exit once again. Along with the FDNY crew, Welles Crowther began his final ascent. He was heading back into the belly of the beast, toward the very floors where the plane had struck. He was 24 years old, and he was doing the work he was born to do. Outside, the world was watching in frozen horror. At 9:59 a.m., the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed in a massive, rolling cloud of debris and dust. It took only 10 seconds for the 110-story giant to vanish from the New York skyline. In Upper Nyack, Wells's mother, Allison Crowther, was watching the news. She knew her son was in that building. She knew he was on the 104th floor. Like thousands of other families, the Crowthers spent the next several days and weeks in a state of agonizing limbo.
They checked every hospital. They posted missing flyers on every street lamp in Manhattan. They waited for a phone call that never came. For months, there was only silence. Welles was gone. His family assumed he had died at his desk on the 104th floor, perhaps instantly when the plane hit. They took comfort in the thought that he didn't suffer. But Allison Crowther struggled with a mother's intuition. She knew her son. She knew he wasn't the type to just sit and wait. She kept asking herself, what did Welles do in those final minutes? The answer came from a most unexpected place. Nearly 8 months after the attacks, in May 2002, Allison was reading a copy of the New York Times. An article caught her eye. It was a story about the survivors of the South Tower and their miraculous escapes. 2 women, Ling Young and Judy Wine, who didn't know each other, both mentioned a mysterious man who had saved their lives. They didn't know his name, they didn't know where he came from, but they both remembered one vivid, unmistakable detail. A man appeared out of the smoke, Ling Young was quoted saying. He had a red bandana tied around his face. He was like a guardian angel. Allison's heart stopped. She knew that red bandana. She remembered her husband handing it to Welles when he was 6 years old. She remembered it tucked into his hockey helmet and his graduation gown. She reached out to the reporter and eventually met with the survivors. She showed them a photograph of Welles. As soon as Ling Young saw the picture, she burst into tears. "That's him," she whispered. "That's the man who saved us. That's the man in the red bandana." The mystery was finally solved. Welles hadn't died at his desk. He hadn't been a passive victim of a tragedy. He had spent his final hour as a commander, a rescuer, and a hero. He had used the very tool his father gave him, a simple red cloth, to protect himself while he saved 18 strangers. In March 2002, his body was finally found. He wasn't found in the ruins of the 104th floor. He was found in the lobby of the South Tower, surrounded by the FDNY firefighters he had joined. They were found near an emergency command post. Even in death, he was standing with the heroes he had always admired. Welles Crowther was no longer just an equities trader who lost his life on 9/11. He was the man in the red bandana, a name that would soon echo across America as a symbol of the ultimate sacrifice.
The story of Welles Crowther didn't end in the rubble of Ground Zero. In the years following 9/11, as the dust settled over New York City, his name began to transform from a private family memory into a public symbol of hope. When the survivors' accounts were verified and the world realized that a 24-year-old civilian had saved 18 lives, the narrative of that tragic day shifted. It wasn't just a story of loss, it was a story of incredible, selfless courage. For his parents, Jefferson and Allison Crowther, the pain of losing their only son never truly left, but they made a choice. They decided that Welles's life should not be defined by how he died, but by how he lived. They established the Welles Remy Crowther Charitable Trust, dedicated to helping young people recognize their own potential for greatness. But the most powerful tribute came from the red bandana itself. What was once a simple piece of cotton cloth used to wipe sweat and dust became a sacred icon. In the halls of Boston College, where Welles once played lacrosse, the red bandana became a way of life. Every year, the school hosts a red bandana game where thousands of students, athletes, and fans wear red bandanas to honor the man who once walked their campus with the same spirit of service. The impact of Welles's actions reached the highest levels of the United States. In 2006, the New York City Fire Department, FDNY, did something they rarely do for a civilian. They posthumously named Welles an honorary firefighter. To the FDNY, Welles wasn't just an equities trader who helped, he was one of them. He had the training, the heart, and the final sacrifice that defined the brotherhood of the bravest. His story also became a cornerstone of the 9/11 Museum and Memory. If you visit the museum in New York today,
you will find a glass case. Inside that case lies a small, faded, wrinkled red bandana. It is one of the most visited exhibits in the entire museum. Thousands of people stand before it in silence, many of them weeping as they realize that this tiny object was the last thing 18 people saw before they were led to safety. President Barack Obama, during the dedication of the 9/11 Museum, stood before the nation and spoke Welles's name. He told the story of the man who gave his life so that others might live. He reminded the world that Welles Crowther's legacy is not just in the lives he saved, but in the people he inspired to be better, to be kinder, and to be braver. But perhaps the most beautiful part of his legacy is what his mother calls the Red Bandanna effect. It's seen in the thousands of letters the Crowther family receives from strangers. It's seen in the school children who now carry red bandanas in their backpacks as a reminder to be a helper. In a world that often feels divided and dark, the story of Welles Crowther serves as a reminder that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear suits. Sometimes they work in high-rise offices, but they always carry something with them, a set of values, a sense of duty, and the willingness to turn back into the smoke when everyone else is running away. Every time someone puts on a red bandana in his honor, they are not just remembering a man who died in 2001. They are making a commitment to look out for the person sitting alone, a commitment to lead when others are lost, a commitment to remember that we are all our brother's keeper. As the sun sets over the Hudson River, not far from where Welles grew up, his memory remains as bright as that crimson cloth. He was a son, a brother, an athlete, and a traitor. But above all, he was a man who understood the assignment of his soul. Jefferson Crowther once gave his son a piece of advice: one for show, one for work. Welles took that work to the highest level possible. He used his work cloth to save lives, and in doing so, he showed the world the very best of the American spirit. Welles Crowther is gone, but the man in the red bandana lives on every time someone chooses courage over fear, and every time we choose to reach out a hand to a stranger in the dark.
What makes a hero? We often ask this question when we look at extraordinary people. Is it a lack of fear? Is it a sudden burst of adrenaline? Or is it something deeper, something cultivated over years of quiet discipline? When we look back at the 36 minutes we've spent following the journey of Welles Crowther, we realize that his heroism wasn't an accident. It wasn't a choice he made only when the plane hit the tower. It was a choice he had been making his entire life. Every time he showed up for football practice in the rain, every time he cleaned a fire truck while his friends were out having fun, and every time he folded that red bandana into his pocket, he was preparing for his destiny. Welles Crowther's story teaches us that heroism is not about the absence of fear. It is about the mastery of it. On that 78th floor sky lobby, Welles was undoubtedly afraid. He was human. He had a family who loved him, a career ahead of him, and a life he cherished. But he had something even stronger than the instinct to survive. He had the instinct to serve. He chose to be the light in someone else's darkest hour, even if it meant his own light would be extinguished. In many cultures, the color red symbolizes life, passion, and sacrifice. For Welles, the red bandana was a bridge between his two worlds. It bridged the gap between the high-stakes office on the 104th floor and the humble firehouse in Upper Nyack. It bridged the gap between a civilian in a suit and a savior in the smoke. Today, that red bandana has become a global symbol. It's no longer just a piece of cloth. It's a question. It asks each of us, what is your red bandana? What is that thing you carry with you? Your skills, your kindness, your voice that you can use to help someone else. We may never be called to a burning skyscraper. We may never have to lead 18 people to safety in a national tragedy. But every day we encounter people who are trapped in their own smoke, people struggling with mental health, people facing loss, people who feel invisible in the crowd. Welles Crowther's legacy tells us that you don't need a badge or a uniform to be a hero.
You just need to be the one who stays when everyone else leaves. You just need to be the one who says, I found the way out, follow me. As we conclude this documentary, let us look at the world differently. When you see the New York City skyline, don't just see the steel and glass. See the spirits of those who stood tall. When you see a red cloth, don't just see a color. See the courage of a 24-year-old boy who decided that his life was worth less than the safety of strangers. To the family of Welles Crowther, the red bandana is a source of peace. To the survivors, it is the reason they are alive to hug their children today. And to you, the viewer, it is a call to action. In a world that often feels cold and indifferent, be the warmth. In a world that is often chaotic, be the calm. Welles didn't save those people because he was famous or powerful. He saved them because he was prepared and he was kind. That is a power we all possess. The smoke has long since cleared from Lower Manhattan. The towers have been replaced by a memorial where water flows into the earth, echoing the tears of a nation. But if you listen closely to the wind whistling through the canyons of Wall Street, you might still hear the echo of a calm, commanding voice. I found the stairs, follow me. Welles Remy Crowther is not just a name on a bronze railing. He is a living fire in the hearts of those he inspired. He is the man in the red bandana, and his story, your story, is far from over. As we fade to black, take a moment of silence, not just for Welles, but for the hero that lives inside of you, waiting for the moment to pull out your own red bandana and change the world. Thank you for watching.